Hello everyone, it's me TFR Wilderness, and it's that time of the month again when I do my end of month bot haul where I show you what I bought over the course of the month. Now last month's haul was a little bit mediocre, I thought. It was kind of disappointing, you know, some fairly basic stuff, nothing outstanding or unusual, and I really struggled to get my first and worst together. But this month is different because I have picked up some pretty good stuff this month, and in fact, I'm still using that what you got this month Wilderness box at the end of my bed. I put everything in at the end of the month, and the box is pretty much full at the end of this month. So I've got something like 16 items to get through. So let's crack on, shall we? Because you know how these videos like to run out to like 45 minutes to an hour. Okay, October. Right, did my usual thing, bought a bunch of stuff at the beginning of the month, and then one of the items that I ordered on the 1st actually arrived really quickly. I bought it from a guy in Europe actually, and it's the first item to arrive this month. It arrived on Thursday the 3rd, and you'll probably know that out of the Seekers, my Seeker of choice is Thundercracker, mainly because of his exploits in the old IDW continuity. But there are a couple of Thundercracker early third-party molds of Thundercracker that have slightly different alt modes, and I like to refer to them as like the holy trinity of early Thundercracker, molds. And I've got one of them already. I've got the Mastermind Creations Night Morpher Thundercracker. One of the others I'm trying to get hold of is the Impossible Toys Tetrajet. But the third one is one I've been trying to get hold of for a while, but he seems to be going for like scalper premiums. But one cropped up this month because I had a search going on eBay for it, and one cropped up. Some guy in Europe, I think it was Holland, was selling it, and I managed to get it for a reasonable price. And it's the Igear Raptor Squadron Thunderwrath. So yeah, finally got hold of this. The reason I went for this is because to me this kind of represents his IDW version. It kind of looks like that. I suppose you can pull these things down a little bit to make a bit of a gap there, because yeah, it sort of looks like his IDW. Kind of looks like his IDW version because it turns into an F-22 Raptor. I've been after one of these for a while. Some people, well, there was a time when this was a kind of a stand-in for the Masterpiece movie aesthetic, but not so much these days, because obviously there's plenty of Masterpiece figures that have come along and supplanted it. But it's still a decent figure, and for an Igear product, it's actually reasonably good. I mean, you can tell it's Igear when you're playing with it. It's an early sort of third-party product. The build quality isn't quite good. The engineering's a little it's not the latest engineering on it. It's a little bit old school engineering, but it's a decent figure. It came in the box with all the accessories. Like I said, I got it for a decent price. Yeah, so that was the first thing I picked up this month. Igear Raptor Squadron Thunderwrath. So then, the following day, on Friday the 4th, pre-ordered third-party set from Kapow arrived. Now, I had a bit of bother getting this out of Kapow. I think the best way to put it is it was unnecessarily delayed. I think is the kindest way to put it. It took longer to get me than it should have done. But I'm not going to openly criticise Kapow toys, because I'll probably get crucified in the comments by a lot of Kapow fanboys who'll be saying, "Oh, you can't go bad mouthing Kapow." And just to prove how well, I do a reasonable amount of business with Kapow, and actually this month I picked up no less than 3 products from Kapow, so I'm doing a lot of business with them, and it stands to reason the more times you do business with a particular seller, the greater the chances of something going wrong. And I've had more than my fair share of problems with Kapow, but that's besides the point. Anyway, I ordered this thing in December last year, finally got it this month, and it is the Mastermind Creations Reformatted R38. Neon Foxwire. Yeah. So the next two figures from the Mastermind Creations DJD set. I've got the other three on the shelf up there. Just waiting for the last two figures to come out. So starting with Foxwire. It's Dominus Ambus, basically, from the IDW continuity. Ejects conjuncts the Jura, or boyfriend, so kissy kissy. Yeah, his original sort of boyfriend from the IDW, but he went missing because he was spying on the DJD. Then he got found out, and because he transformed into a Turbo Fox, they rather than killing him, they captured him and they domesticated him. They removed his transformation cog and turned him into a feral beast, and then he became the referred to as the pet and was looked after by Kaon. But here he is in his robot mode. Decent figure. I think they remoulded this to that Jaguar toy, which they're doing with that upgrade set for the IDW Megatron. It's got reasonable number of joints, fairly straightforward transformation, because it's just a cat or a dog, a quadruped that turns into a biped. There's not much to say about it. The decent amount of articulation, cool looking figure. But there we go, got that. And then it comes with nickel, or Ni, Ni, which is the scientific symbol on the periodical table for nickel. So it's quite clever what they did there. I love Nickel. I think Nickel's an amazing character. I absolutely love her, mainly because from the old IDW continuity. I mean, one, she was with the DJD. When you read that issue where she first introduced, she does the maintenance on the DJD members, and even though she's small, she puts the fear of God into them when she's doing maintenance on them. She's really, aggressive when she doing maintenance on them, and she's like an overbearing sort of matron from a hospital, sort of doing maintenance on them. And Tesserus and Helix, she puts the fear of God into them when she's doing maintenance on them, and she's really cool. Now, if you haven't read Dying of the Light, I'm sorry, spoilers. She's the sole surviving member of the DJD in Dying of the Light. All the other DJD members died off one way or another, including the pet, who it's heartbreaking when the pet dies because they realise it was Dominus Ambus, and then Eject comes along and it's like, oh no, he's died. It's really heartbreaking. But anyway, that happened. But Nickel, yeah, she after Dying of the Light, she went and kicked around with Deathsaurus for a while, and then in one of the later issues, there was this incident going on this planetoid where we got the scavengers were there, and then there was this war going on between the them two other factions. I can't remember the name of them off the top of my head. My memory's terrible. Anyway, ipso facto, an incident happened. And she got swept up and wound up hanging out with the Scavengers. Now, I love the Scavengers. I think the Scavengers are probably one of the most amazing groups of no-hoper Decepticons that come out of the IDW continuity. And Nickel, another one of my favourite characters, is now sort of living and hanging out with them. So, amazing. So she works for me in so many different ways. She works for me as a member of the DJD. She works for me as a member of the Scavengers. So, works for me so much. I've been dying to get hold of this thing, get hold of a version of Nickel in plastic form. Quite a fiddly, complex transformation, and her alt mode is a bit open to interpretation. She kind of, you can say she transforms into one of three things depending on which accessories you fit to her. And she's got these little manipulator arms on her legs, so you can turn her into like a deep sea submersible, but you can also turn her into a kind of like a spaceship or a moon buggy, whichever one you want to choose. She very, very rarely transforms in the comic book, and to be honest, you're gonna have her in robot mode anyway. I love her design. I love the fact she's got this awesome face sculpt, which in the comic it almost looks like an old school television set. You know, her face is flat and it almost looks like an image on a TV screen. She's got this little sort of gauge on top of her head which does something, and I really love her design. So yeah, I got hold of one of her. I got hold of this, and absolutely thrilled to finally have, you know, nickel in plastic form in my hands, even though I had like I said, a slight difficulty getting one out of Kapow, but there we go. That arrived on the 4th. Also on Friday the 4th, I went uptown because it was a Friday, so that's you know, Spartown Comics. Went to see Richard uptown and got the final issue of Transformers Ghostbusters. This issue kind of makes up for the lack of action in the previous issues. You know, everything kicks off in this issue. You know, the ghost versions of the other Decepticons turn up and they're all fighting amongst themselves. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And when they wound the comic up, there's a bit at the end where it says, you know, Ectotron will return, because he basically jumps in a space shuttle, well, a shuttlecraft, and then disappears off into the universe in search of other, you know, sort of ghost Cybertronians. So it's kind of interesting the way they wound it up. So we haven't seen the last of Ectotron. Hopefully he will crop up again in another sort of comic continuity down the line. But that's the end of that. And after that, I nipped down the road from the comic guys and went into the local spa centre and went to entertain a toy shop, because I'd seen a review done by another YouTuber. Now, his YouTuber made me do it. Retro Prime up in Scotland had got hold of one of these figures from his local supermarket and did a review on it. And I thought, you know what, I wouldn't mind to get that. So I went in my entertainer, and luckily enough, they had it on the shelf. Now, we all know these Cyberverse toys are pretty much for kids, especially the Scout class line, the little versions they do. The robot modes are okay, but they don't transform into alt modes properly. They sort of half transform, and they have this stupid gimmick that works. So if you're going to get one of the figures from the line, I suggest you go for the Scraplet. Yeah, so yeah, they've done a Scraplet. It's kind of similar to the design of Scraplets that they had from Transformers Prime, where they sort of transformed out of a ball into a little scutter type creature, with yum 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 opening jaws. And this has got that gimmick where it's got the spin jaw gimmick, which is pretty cool. You can sort of stand it up if you want to. It's got very limited sort of articulation and doesn't really transform, to be honest. But then again, it's a version of the Scraplet, so I thought it'd be worth getting. And it's a decent little fiddle toy, I suppose. If you're the sort of person that has a desk at work and you have a transformer on it to mess around with, it's good for that. So yeah, I got hold of one of those at my local entertainer toy shop. And that was everything on the 4th. Moving on. The following day, it was the Leam Comic Con. And went to the previous week. I'd been to the Coventry Comic Con, which you saw last month. This month, the first weekend of this month, obviously it was the Leam Comic Con. And for some reason this year, I don't know why they did it. They had the the Coventry Comic Con and the Leam Comic Con virtually back to back. Like on one weekend and the other, they were really close together, and I don't know why they did that. But anyway, they did. But fortunately, they weren't on the same date. They were on concurrent weekends, so I was able to go to both of them. And I took £100 to it. Wasn't expecting to find much, and to be honest, I didn't find much. But I took a few short video clips while I was walking around, which I'm going to put in here.
then I saw like those little
Yeah.
Miniseries that started with an investigation.
behind Captain America.
Yeah, and as you can see, it's inside the All Saints Church, and you're walking around, lots of sort of indie comic people doing comics and loads of other stuff, and there wasn't much in the way of Transformers. Now, Richard from Comic Connections had a big stall there, but he said he was going to bring some plastic along, some transforming toys, but when I went to see him, he wasn't, because he'd been in a bit of a rush to get out to get the stall set up at the event on the Saturday morning. He'd been unable to pick up any Transformer toys, so all he had was comics. So I didn't want to come away from the place empty-handed, so I had a rifle through some of the old comics they had, and I picked up a couple of issues of Transformers Spotlight. So I got Spotlight Grimlock and Spotlight Ultra Magnus. Now, I had a couple of Spotlight. Now, see, this is the thing. This is the old IDW continuity, because you've got the new IDW, well, the new IDW continuity that they're into at the moment. But then you've got the sort of the intermediate one where you had More Than Meets the Eye, Robots in Disguise going forwards, Dark Cybertron and all that. But the earlier versions, you had like Megatron Origins, you had the Regeneration 1 and what was that Dreamwave? Well, Regeneration 1 anyway. You had all those early sort of series of the Transformers IDW comics, and they did these spotlights where they took a particular character and they did a short, they did a one shot sort of comic featuring that character. And now I knew I had some spotlights already, and it wasn't until I got home and I went up into the loft and went through my comic archive that I discovered I had it already. So yeah, I've got two Spotlight Ultra Magnuses. Now obviously IDW being IDW, you have different covers. They do multiple cover variants, and as they've done here, so you've got like cover B and cover A. So I couldn't remember which ones I had off the top of my head, but it was when I got home I found out I already had it. So yeah, I was a bit disappointed that I spent, what was it, £4, getting £4 each on these. I was a bit disappointed, that I picked up a duplicate. But it wasn't until I think it was the following week I went to see Richard again at Spartown Comics Uptown. Can't remember whether I got any comics off him. No, I didn't. So yeah, I went to see him the following week and just to have a chat with him, and I mentioned to him that I'd bought a duplicate, and he said, well, bring it back. I'll give you a refund on it, and then just credit you the amount of money into your subscription account. But I haven't actually got around, because I didn't have it on me at the time, so I haven't actually got around to taking it back to him. I might try next month to see if I can return it to him and get a refund. But even if I don't, I'm not that bothered, because it's just a comic. It costs a couple of quid. I've got a few duplicate comics in my collection that I've picked up by mistake. So it's not the first time this has happened. But yeah, I got that, and they were my 2 pickups from the Spartown Comic Con. Yeah, Spartown Comic Con. Right, so what's next? Couple of days later, Monday the 7th, something I ordered off Amazon. After watching a review from was it Chuck Emanuel, or Charles, was it Charles D. Emanuel or whatever his name is? He did a review on Cyberverse, Power of the Spark, Spark Armor, Grimlock, and when I saw the way the figure transformed, I thought that looks pretty cool. And I've been after a version of Grimlock from the Cyberverse line, but a lot of the other figures they've done so far just don't really work for me because they have like frozen joints on them. I think I might get the Ultimate one because that has got a decent amount of joints, even though it's kind of very thin plastic and it's hollow, but it looks half decent, and the gimmick's not too intrusive on that. But anyway, yeah, so I got this off Amazon. The Spark Armor Grimlock. Now, he's got his Spark Armor on. To be honest, the Spark Armor isn't very good. I can't get it to... I mean, it's on here now, but you only have to sort of touch it and it does that. It won't stay down. And now, I will say, this Spark Armor is garbage, which is highly appropriate because it turns into a garbage truck. So yeah, it's not really that great, to be honest. I mean, this does nothing for the figure, to be honest. Not like the smaller Spark Armor figures that they come apart and you can plug them into different parts of the robot mode, and they're kind of fun to mess around with. But this thing, no. But the figure looks like Grimlock, good style. It's got a really interesting transformation. You basically just sort of just unfold it, and then you just sort of fold it back over, and it's quite an interesting transformation. So yeah, it's a pretty cool transformation the way it works. And you get something that looks reasonably close to Grimlock from the show. Fairly screen accurate looking Grimlock with a minimum of sort of kibble. So it's worth getting for that. I mean, I got it off Amazon for about 20-something quid. And I think there's other places it's readily available now. So, if you're a fan of Grimlock and you, like me, you fancy getting a Cyberverse Grimlock, but you don't want one of the crappy ones. I mean, this is the one to get because it's got a decent amount of articulation joints, and yeah, it's a pretty cool looking figure. Just ignore the fact it comes with this stupid thingamajigger. Right, so that was that. That was on Monday the 7th, and then. Well, actually, it was the same day, according to this. On the 7th as well, again, another item from Kapow arrived. And it is Iron Factory Spirits of the D.E.C. IFEX 34 Alkaid. So it's... This is Tesserus, isn't it? Or Tesserus? Tesserus, yeah, I think. So I've actually got 3 members of the DJD this month, even though they're from 2 different companies. Yeah, so I'm picking these guys up. I've got the Tarn, I've got the Voss, I've got the Kaon, Tesserus, Marak, the final character, the Helix character. Apparently he's coming out later next month, back end of November, so... there are a few people online who are doing pre-orders on it. Kapow haven't done a pre-order on it as yet. I might be getting it off Kapow, though I might get it from somewhere else. I don't know. I think he's going to be in high demand because, you know, like other people who are collecting these, they do combine together to make like a giant sort of version of Tarn. Yeah, so I am looking to get hold of the final part. This guy is basically, you know, he all comes apart, you know, because he's basically combiner parts, just put together to form a robot mode. I'm a bit underwhelmed by this guy. His proportions are really off because you can see how massive arms and really short stumpy legs he's got. He's got a very bland transformation into his alt mode. His alt mode is just like a blocky blue tank thing. And this guy is supposed to form the smelting pool that, you know, when they're torturing you know, Decepticons, they basically dipping them in, they're melting them in this smelting pool, and that's what he transforms into. But you look on the back, these are the panels that are supposed to be the smelting pools. They're just moulded plastic. You know, there's nothing there. They don't open up or anything to see like frothing lava, like, you know, molten metal inside. You know, it doesn't. And it's kind of disappointing that they didn't add that level of detail on this. He's very solid, quite heavy, nice stiff joints, typical, you know, Iron Factory build quality. He's really good. He just, I don't know, he just doesn't do enough for me in terms of, you know, stuff. Basically, he's just a little underwhelmed by him, to be honest. I was still going to get him, and, you know, when I reckon I'm probably going to have these guys combined when I finally get the last piece. But it's amazing how many parts this thing comes off to form bits for the combiner. You know, you basically pull him completely apart and reconfigure all his bits to form a bit of this, a bit of that, and a bit in the other, and then you put all the other figures together, and you end up with this giant figure. Though Marak is going to form the main bulk of the character, the main bulk of the combiner. This guy's basically like the feet, the arms, the legs, and all the other stuff. So yeah, got him. He's okay. And he was the other thing that arrived on blah blah blah. Where are we looking? It was 7th, so Monday the 7th. Yeah, so that was sort of like the first half of the haul this month. Getting on to the second half. Next, I had a week off work on the 7th to the 11th of October and decided to go on an impromptu toy hunt. I heard rumours that certain figures was popping up at retail, like the Wave 3 Siege Deluxes, for instance, and so I decided to go along to my local Smiths over at Coventry, and yeah, so went there in search of a couple of characters, and I did a little toy hunt video on it, which you've probably watched. And when I got there, found Siege Barricade. Yeah, he's really cool figure. Really like him a lot. I was umming and ahhing about getting the Prowl mould, but obviously it's been repainted into like half a dozen different characters. Smokescreen, Blue Streak, and Barricade. And I was looking at the Barricade version. I thought, well, actually, you know, that looks pretty damn cool. So I decided to get him. He's also very popular at the moment, this guy. You know, he's like man of the moment. Every man and his dog's getting him and reviewing him and picking him up. So very popular figure. So got hold of him. And then I also got Siege Impactor. Finally we got an official Impactor in the mainstream toy line instead of a repaint and an exclusive repaint of another mould. You know, he's got a unique mould. He's in the toy line. He turns into a tank that I think kind of looks like a mouse. You know, like a Panzerkampfwagen 8. But yeah, did a review on him. Really cool figure. Pretty sweet transformation. Yeah, it's about time we got a proper Impactor in the mainstream toy line, so I'm really glad of that. I mean, yeah, he's got the stupid hollowness in the legs, but there's some companies doing some filler pieces for it, so that's good, and I was expecting that to happen. But yeah, he's quite big for a deluxe, because, you know, you put him next to Barricade, and yeah, he's quite large. I never noticed that until now. So yeah, he's quite a big character. But really cool. I'm certainly glad I picked him up and managed to find him in my local Smiths, so that was great. And picked them up on Thursday the 10th. Then on Friday the 11th, had a delivery. Something that I've been looking to get. Now, it's a bit of a departure for me because even though it's an official Transformers figure, it doesn't transform. And yeah, I like my Transformers to transform. But this is a representation of a mainstream character from one of the comic lines done in kit form. I am, of course, referring to Flame Toys Furai model kit. IDW Megatron Autobot version. Yeah, so more than meets the eye Megatron. You can see it's still sealed in plastic. I haven't opened it yet. I am going to get around to building it at some point. It's like a Gundam-esque style kit. It's like you cut the parts out and you clip it all together and it makes a figure. I was looking at this in the glass case at TF Nation because there was a painted up one in the display and it looked really good. It looked amazing, and I was looking to get it anyway because it looked really cool. I've got the Mastermind Creations Tyrantron, so he is smaller than that, but so I've got one that transforms. So I wanted to get this one as a representation of that character from that fiction, and it looks pretty cool. I also went and got a Gundam marker, so to do the panel lining, because I think it looks really good with the panel lining. I mean, you can build this thing, dry without any paint or stickers on it, and it looks okay. But the one in the case had been professionally painted and it'd been all panel lined out, and it looked amazing. So I thought, well, you can get these special markers you can do panel lining with. So I thought I'd give that a go. So he arrived on Friday the 11th. And that was that. Then moving right along. Legends scale, like third-party Legends stuff. I mean, very, very popular. There's a lot of companies doing them. I mean, Iron Factory led the way, and then there's all these other companies just sort of sprang up in competition. Magic Square, Papa Toys, MechFans Toys. There's a whole bunch of them. And then you've got Newage. Now, Newage have been doing a couple of little figures, and I've got quite a few Magic Square things, but not much in the way of Newage stuff. I did recently get the Newage Jazz Monero. I got him recently. But I was actually in the market for a Legend Scale Ratchet. And I've been looking at the ones that are available from various companies. I haven't quite made my mind up which one I want to get. But while I was looking at the Newage version, I saw they did the other characters, like they did obviously Ironhide, and they've done some repaints. They've done like a yellow taxi version, which looks pretty cool, and they've also done a black version. So yeah, this is what's it called again? It's Newage NA H7B Riddick. So it's basically Diaclone Ironhide, aka Shattered Glass Ironhide. They're selling him as a Shattered Glass character. But I really like the look of this black deco on this mould, and it's Newage. It's got really, really sweet engineering on it. It's got all the articulation you could want on a little figure. I mean, it's practically a masterpiece in miniature, this thing. I mean, okay, yeah, it's got a bit of hollowness going on there inside the chest, and some of the, when you're in robot mode, some of the things don't quite peg in quite as firmly as you'd expect. But apart from that, it's a great little character, great little figure. Really glad I picked it up. So Newage Riddick, got hold of him, so picked him up, and he arrived on the 17th, which was Thursday. Next, right, first of my KTRTs then arrived the following day on the 18th. I've done a review on him. Yeah, Dino Core Evolution Mega D Fighter Krono. and decided to go for this guy. He's got a really, really cool, lovely colour green, which isn't quite coming across on this camera. I don't think it doesn't. When I'm looking at it in the screen and looking at it in person, you know, there's a bit of a disparity between the actual shade of green, but he's a really cool colour. Very simple transformation. The beast mode's a bit, yeah, it turns into a Kronosaurus. If you know what one of those is, it's kind of like a mosasaur. You know, it's like a swimming lizard with a big toothy mouth. You know, it's got like a big toothy mouth. He's pretty cool. Did a review on him, and yeah, he's typical Korean toy. Lots of strong, you know, thick, chunky, shiny plastic. You know, it's got ratchets on it. You know, it's a decent toy. It's and I got it at a reasonable price, about 45 quid odd. Yeah, so got him. And then on the 18th, it was, well, obviously it was a Friday, so it was Spartown Comics. So I went uptown to see my mate Richard and got hold of issue 13 of Transformers Bold New Era. Now, this has gone to monthly now. It was fortnightly for the first 12 issues. It's now gone to monthly. Obviously, got Springer on the cover of this particular one. The story is, again, it's... There's things happening, but it's just not engaging me as much as what, you know, More Than Meets the Eye or Lost Light or, you know, any of the previous iterations, the previous, you know, continuities of IDW comics. But I'm carrying on with it. We'll just see how it goes. Hopefully it's going to get a bit better. There's interesting characters getting cameos in it here and there, so it's... I like what's going on there. There's some unusual characters, especially characters from the old IDW saga, you know, crossing over into the new one, which is quite interesting, even though they've got a different, you know, they're not different personality, so to speak, but it's nice to see that that's going on. And that was again on the 18th. And then the next thing was my next Korean box. Now, I've done a review on it. Mirinae. Hello Carbot's Prime Unity Mirinae. It's one of those, you know, those crash combiner thingamajiggers. You know, stick them together. And then it transforms into a flying horse. Now, I bought this because of what it transforms into. And I knew it was a one-trick pony. But, yeah, I bought it for that reason. However, what I didn't tell you in the review I did on this is just before this thing was delivered, I got the dreaded customs hit on it. Yeah. So, I'm going to have a little bit of a rant now. Yeah, UK revenue and customs and, well, just duty payments on international parcels. Now, I know it's a random thing. They get hit randomly. I mean, if they stopped every parcel that came into the country to check it to see whether duty had been paid on it, and if so, you know, if it didn't, then applying a duty payment on it, the system would grind to a halt because there'd be such a massive volume of things coming through that needed to get checked, then they just couldn't do it. So they randomly pick, they scan certain parcels that come through, and then others they just pick them at random. They have a look on the shipping labels, see how much it is, slap a duty fee on it, and then they charge their fee. Because Royal Mail charge £8 processing fee. Parcel Force charge £12, so it's like money for nothing. But my main gripe is this toy is only available in Korea. I cannot buy it in the UK. Now, everything you buy in the UK, we pay what is called VAT. In America, if you're American watching, then you have this purchase tax thing that you have to pay separately on top of everything you buy in the shops, depending on which state you live in. Over here, everything is included in the price that you pay, but we pay VAT and value-added tax. And if I'd have bought this from a shop in the UK, I'd have paid the VAT on it. But I can't buy this in the UK. I have to buy it from overseas. Now, these things retail... I've been checking that the Korean value of it is about, I think, is it 12 to 1500 won or something like that, which rough... Is it that much? I can't remember. Anyway, they're about 12 to 15 quid in the Korean shops. Now, there's these sellers, these eBay sellers, who buy them out the shops, and then they sell them on eBay for a small premium. Now, when I was looking to get this, the eBay sellers were doing it for around about 45 quid, which is too much, way too much for this thing, and I refused to buy it. So I was looking at getting it from other places, and then KR Brickbot suggested I look on this website called 11th Street. So I had a look on there. Unfortunately, when I went through, I could find someone selling it on 11th Street for the basic price, but when you added the postage, and you have to do double postage, you have to have it posted locally in Korea, and then you have to have it pay for the postage to have it posted internationally. It's the same as G-Market. It's exactly the same setup as G-Market. Anyway, when you added all these postage fees together, it came out at over 45 quid, and I thought, no, I'm not doing 11th Street. You can forget 11th Street. So I sacked that idea. So then I went back onto eBay, and I found somebody selling it for just over 30 quid, and it's still a bit much than I wanted to pay, because the Dragon X, when I bought Dragon X, it was about 20 odd quid, and even then I thought it was a bit expensive. But I paid just over 30 quid for this off eBay, but I was willing to pay that much, and I paid it, and it got shipped, and it made it into the UK. And then when it arrived at the local sorting office down the road, that is when it got stopped, and they slapped the hit on it, and I had to pay an extra £11.12 on top of the 30 odd quid I paid. So this thing cost me over 45 quid. So I didn't gain anything. I still had to pay the eBay scalper price for it. I still had to pay the G-Market Korea price, or the 11th Street scalper price. I still had to pay it. Still paid over 45 quid for this. And I will say, when this happens, when a figure that I've bought in gets a customs hit, especially if it's one that I don't want to get a customs, and I really did not want this to get a customs hit on it, but it did, and it pushed it up to the price that I didn't want to pay for it. So I ended up paying over the odds for it. Now, I have paid over the odds for things before, but usually I pay over the odds for things willingly. I did not want to pay 45 quid for this, but I ended up paying 45 quid for it anyway. And I was furious. I was seething with anger. I was so mad and frustrated about having to pay that amount of money, and it just totally ruined my opinion of this toy. It's a great toy. I'm glad I bought it, but I'm not glad that I had to. Another thing about it, when you get this, you're paying twice, and that's one thing that I really hate, is paying twice for things. I paid once to get this off the eBay seller, and then it gets shipped, and then I get another thing saying, "No, you got to pay a bit more money before you can have it," and it's like, argh! It just drives me mad. So yeah, I was really upset, and as such, this thing, yeah, I don't like it as much as I did. Now that I've now had to pay way more money for it than I originally intended. So yeah, that happened, and yeah, so. That's it now. There's only one more thing to show you. It arrived yesterday. Toyworld Green Hornet, or FS03, TWFS03 Green Hornet. It's basically the World War II Bumblebee from the Last Night movie in plastic form. Dave Mentz, Smizno, got one of these recently, and he was a little disappointed by it in a number of ways. I mean, one, it was small, so I can give you a size comparison. There he is next to Impactor. Impactor, to be fair, is a big Deluxe, but let's put him next to Barricade. So you can see he's a little bit shorter than Barricade. So he is small, and his car mode is not much bigger than a Matchbox car. Very complex transformation. I mean, I like to do transformations off the cuff, and I did it yesterday evening, and it took me just over 20 minutes to take it from car to robot mode, but it's very complex. I haven't tried to take it the other way yet, but that'll be fun and games. Has got some QC issues, because now Smizno was complaining about, this one's, as you can see, it's kind of floppy. Both of them were floppy, but I sort of tightened them up a little bit, so they're not too bad. But yeah, I had some QC issues. And then the paint. Robot mode's got plenty of paint on it. It's amazingly painted, but the car mode is a little bit bland. They haven't painted the car quite as well as they have the robot mode. And those were Dave Mentz's complaints, and I can say, yeah, I agree with his assessment of this toy. You know, it's small, it's overtly complex, isn't quite as well painted as Toyworld Bulldog, and it's got QC issues. But apart from that, it's a great figure, very detailed. Like I said, very complex transformation, very fiddly transformation. But yeah, awesome alt mode, awesome robot mode. Glad I got it. But you know, I paid about the same price as Bulldog for this, and you know, Bulldog's a bigger figure, and he's got a lot more going for him than this guy. So, and also, just give me a moment. Right, it came with this. Now, this is the build-apart figure for that World War One triplane Starscream that they're doing. And it's this. Now, after seeing Smizno's review, well, when you call it a review, his look at the figure, he showed me this. Well, showed this. It's dead easy to transform, and it forms half of the tail for the plane mode, which is great. But I have a problem with this, and it's the whole Build-A-Figure thing. Now, Build-A-Figures are okay for like Marvel Legends figures, where you pay like 20 odd quid for a figure that's yay big, and you get an arm and a leg, and then they have a wave of them, and you get 5 or 6 pieces which you build up an extra character. That's fine when you're paying like 20 odd quid a time for a character. These things are like 45, 50, 55 quid a pop, and you don't know what figures you're going to be getting the rest of the bits with, and you're probably going to have to buy characters that you don't want to buy in order to get the rest of the pieces to make this thing. So I am a bit annoyed about this. I know they're going to be doing repaints of this thing when it comes out. They're doing, well, you've got the silver one, which is the basic one, which is the one they're doing the Build-A-Figure on. But they're going to do, I think, a desert camo one. And they're also doing a Red Max, Red Baron one. And that's the one that I want. That's the one I want. And I assume that'll be a limited edition figure that you buy complete. But as for this Build-A-Figure thing, no, I'm not a fan. Even though this particular piece is really good. I mean, it turns into a leg. It's quite straightforward, the transformation. Hang on, come on. There we go. And then you get a leg. So it's got the ball joint, it's got 5 swivel, a double knee because it's like chicken legs, and then you've got the foot that's got the ankle tilt and a little bit of forwards and backwards motion. So yeah, you got a leg. Now No, I'm not a fan of it, to be honest. I wish they wasn't doing that. I wish they'd just released the figure separately, but hey ho. But yeah, I got Toyworld Green Hornet. He's alright. Yet another Toyworld figure, you know, Toyworld fanboy and all that. He's alright, he's okay. Not fantastically brilliant. Could have done with being a bit bigger, but I think he's supposed to be scaled to the Studio Series figures, so that's probably why he's as small as he is, because we all know the Studio Series Deluxes are kind of small, aren't they? So yeah, I assume that's why they did it this scale. But got him, and that's the last thing I got this month. There is another thing I've ordered from AliExpress, which is it's a transforming figure, but it's nothing to do with Transformers. And another thing I want to say before I sign off. These are going to be the last KTRTs I buy for a while. I'm giving the old Korean toys a rest. Actually, Mirinae here is the 100th Korean toy I've bought since I started collecting them. I actually worked it out how many I've picked up, and yeah, 100 Korean toys. I haven't actually got 100 in my collection because I have sort of given a couple of them away. I gave one to Gary Churm. That was Turning Met Card HG Phoenix, and I also bought a duplicate Autobot Athlon Vulcan, which I gave to Matthew Grant, the toy therapist, because he said he wanted one. But yeah, so Mirinae is the last Korean toy. Because of the whole Brexit thing going on, I know it's the 31st today and we've got a Brexit extension till the 31st of January. But still, it's messed up, you know, the price of the pound, and I still think it's affected, you know, international parcels coming into the country. So I'm going to give the Korean toys a rest for a bit. I don't know how long. There isn't particularly anything out there that I want to buy at the moment. So I don't want to carry on with that. And next month there's a couple of big ass, you know, KO figures that I want to pull the trigger on. So, and also next month I'm going to the MCM Comic Con at Birmingham, so I want to take 200 quid to that because I'm hoping to pick up a Mega Supreme if In Demand have got it on their store, plus a few other bits and pieces. So yeah, so my budget for next month is pretty much spoken for. So yeah, these will be the last Korean toys I buy for a bit, which is probably going to mean fewer reviews on my channel, unfortunately, though I might try and throw a couple of extra things in to take up the slack. Right, so yeah, it's that end of video thing that I do where I do first and worst. Not quite 100% sure what my first and worst is, but I've got a couple of figures here that I'm going to do. So, you ready? First and worst. MMC Knee or Nickel, because it's Nickel, man. I love Nickel. Nickel's an amazing character, and I've finally got a version of her in plastic form. So, absolutely incredible. Awesome little figure. And the worst, Mirinae. I don't hate the toy. It's just what happened to the toy when it got shipped, and the fact that it got stopped. Got a customs, or no, I got a duty payment slapped on it, and I ended up paying over the odds for it. So, no, sorry, it's really upset me, that has, and it's unfair on the toy, but these things happen, and it's not the first time a toy has gone down in my estimations because it got a customs hit. You know, these things happen. So that's been my haul for this month. Hopefully this video is going to be under an hour. Looks like it might be. So I've been TFL Wilderness. Hopefully catch you all next time. See yous. Ta-da.